the Hopcast.
Hello, everybody. It's a beautiful day.
It's a little windy, but that's alright. We're outside.
We're going to drink through it.
So this is episode 11, and I'm Brad Chmielewski.
My name's Ken Hunnemeder.
And so for episode 11, we're just doing what we love.
Mm-hmm.
Drinking beer and making them I.P.As.
That's right. I.P.As, which we have discussed in the past, are highly hopped ales. Originally done for preservation purposes.
The ship, we talked about that in episode 10, the ship coming over. And
hops are natural preservatives, so in order to keep the beer fresh from the trip, I believe they would start in London and then down to India, where they get the name India Pale Ale.
So what's the difference? You see a lot of American IPAs now? Is that just the hops?
Yeah, American IPAs have. Well, you want to pour this one out? And
okay. So this is sort of like their Unplugged series that New Glarus has, I think.
Similar type of thing. I think it's kind of a series of beers where they make them a little bigger, probably more flavor, alcohol.
Okay, so it pours. Smells like a light orange.
Yeah, and this actually is brewed with orange peel, which is pretty interesting for an IPA. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
You usually get the citrus notes in there
from the hops themselves.
Yeah.
But I guess this will be enhanced, and that's kind of part of the whole idea behind the series. They can do crazy stuff like that.
That's right.
There's a lot of hops. I like that.
Yeah. It's a little different.
The orange peel does come into play like right at the very, very end. It's kind of like if you push some air around your mouth with your tongue. I get a lot of the orange from there.
There's not a lot of aftertaste. It just kind of finishes.
Mm-hmm. Has a nice bitterness to it. It's fruity.
You get the orange peel. You get the little bit of grapefruit in there.
Yep.
It's good. It's nothing. I guess it's nothing crazy.
No.
From Brewers Gone Wild, like why not just come out with the IPA? Right?
They don't print on the bottle how, the gravity of this. We don't know how much alcohol's in it, and it wasn't listed on Beer Advocate either. But I feel like it would be maybe around 7% or so. It feels like there's a fair amount of alcohol in there. It's overall, I would say, just like a real solid American IPA.
Right, so what's the difference between... Oh, Hurricane Ike is back! So what was the difference between the American IPA and the English IPA?
The English IPA is... There is a lot of hops in it, but they don't use it for bittering necessarily. They use it strictly for the preservation. So there is more hops than a normal English ale, but nowhere near what you're going to find in an American IPA. Americans tend to like the flavors more than the European people, as the Belgian people. Don't really get into the hops as much as Americans do.
They're getting there. They're seeing the greatness of the hops.
Yeah.
This I picked up in Minnesota when Don and I were up there for the Darkness days. So, and this was a hot commodity in the trading line. People were trading 3 Floyd's Alpha King. Two 3 Floyd's Alpha King was equal one bottle of this.
So you just had to?
I had to buy it.
To see what it's all about?
Yeah. And I think I would have kept my Alpha King to me. Yeah.
I'd take the Alpha King. Not a knock on this beer, because I do think it's very, very good. But Alpha King, that's good stuff there.
Right, this is just nothing different.
No, it's not crazy out there or anything, but it's definitely a good, solid beer.
But Lake Hills, we might have to check them out and an episode go up there and just see what they're all about.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff, by the way. just in case they're watching. They'll let us come up there and go in their brewery.
So you're going back now.
So we're saying good things about them now.
If you're the brewery and you're watching, that's amazing. If you're everyone else, it's okay.
It's pretty good.
But it is a good IPA, and that's what I like, and you like the hops.
Taste explosion.
Let's finish this up, and then we'll come back with the second IPA. We're gonna have an Illinois-Wisconsin battle. Welcome back.
The conditions were just a little unbearable, so we moved inside.
It's a little less windy, hopefully.
And chilly.
So that was our IPA from Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good, but who are they going to battle in our IPA off?
Well, we brought Brad's friends, two brothers.
From my hometown, Warrenville.
Shout out! Well, you probably know a bunch about two brothers, because you're cool with those guys.
Oh, yeah. So but you went there recently. But
I was there yesterday.
So their new brew pub is located still in Warrenville, behind Summer Lakes. So if you know the Warrenville area, it's out that way.
I remember it's on Calumet Avenue. That's all I know.
That's a little side street in there. So off of 59 though. 59's a big road, so that's easy to find. So this is their heavy-handed. Comes out once a year, usually late summer.
I didn't realize it was a special release type of thing that it came out. I thought it was a year round.
Yeah, so once it's gone, it's gone.
Can't get it anymore.
So we're going to try the 2008, because it is 2008. They're heavy handed. So let's pour it out.
Fresher the better.
Okay, so either I poured mine a little too slow, or you poured yours a little too fast.
I like a little head on mine, so it's a little vigorous.
So you got almost
a finger.
Yeah, a finger. I've got a baby finger. But mine did build. If you in the pour, you saw mine built up there at the end. So there is probably a finger of head. It's probably ideal for this beer.
Yeah, it has some nice retention.
Right.
It's going down slowly, but
it goes down quick. Nice lacing on the glass, and a little more like amber brown color.
Yeah, it's darker.
Yeah,
quite a bit darker than your typical IPA that you see.
Right. So this is an American IPA with wet hops.
Mm-hmm.
And should we talk about the difference there with the wet and dry hops?
Yeah, wet hops basically means that they pluck the cones of the hops straight off the vine and throw them straight into the boil. Whereas most brews, they're going to go through like a drying process. And I kind of like attribute it to the same type of principle as using like fresh herbs and spices as opposed to dried herbs and spices. So you kind of like, if you actually use like fresh herbs, you usually get like a more rounded, less intense type of flavor. But if it's like a ground powder, it's a lot more intense.
Right.
But maybe a little bit harsher.
So there's a little more love here too.
More love.
The time was spent to do it right away rather than finding the hops, having them shipped, and
yeah. As soon as you take it off the vine, I mean the countdown's on. You're losing freshness by the second, so you got to get that straight in there.
Yeah, which is probably why this is released once a year. The hops get picked, they put it in there, it's done.
That's why it's they'll call these harvest. This is hop harvest ale. So they do it right at harvesting time for the hops, and that's how they
Did they put where the hops are from on this?
I thought they said they were Cascade hops. Oh, no, they didn't. I made that up, but they did not.
Okay.
Well, I don't know where they got them. You can grow your own hops if you want. Some people do that at their house and then brew their own beer from their own hop varieties, but I'm not sure where.
They probably don't because they do such a large volume of beer.
Yeah, I don't think they. I mean, That's a lot of hops that you need for like those big, tanks that they have.
Something to note, I didn't see this when I was in Minnesota. The heavy-handed was not at the liquor store. So, Two Brothers has a pretty large distribution area, but I wonder if this one doesn't make it as far because they don't do as much of it.
I can't remember if they were in Minnesota or not, but when I was at the brewery tour yesterday, I think there were 8 states that they distribute to.
Well, they had other beers, not this one.
Oh, okay.
Other ones,
I gotcha.
I was just wondering if this one, it's a smaller batch, so they kind of keep it local.
Could be.
But let's give it a try. Enough talk. Has a good smell, a little floral. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's not an intense smell, and I think that might have something to do with the wet hops, where it's more like maybe a rounded smell. Hi, Tweak.
So it's not as bitter as the Brewers Gone Wild series from Tangria. How do you say them?
Tyranena?
Tyranena, yeah. Oh, blown up.
It's very floral and a little sweet, and it does have some bitterness. I mean, obviously it's going to have some bitterness being an IPA and all, but in the back after the washout and the finish has some bitterness.
Right, you don't get it up front like you did with the Tyranena.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
But I think this is one of my top 5, top 10 favorite beers. This is just, I like this guy.
Bold statement.
I see it, I'm getting it.
Brad reaches for this.
I reach for the Two Brothers. Not gonna lie.
When I was at the brew pub yesterday, they actually had this on cask, which I don't know if we've ever gone over cask conditioned ales on the show. But basically, instead of using CO2 to push the beer out of the kegs, it's on a hand pumping system. So you'll see them, and it's served at like cellar temperature or almost room temperature, slightly cooler.
So, for my own note here, what's the difference between the hand pump and just the cask? Because I was at Surly this weekend, and they were hand pulling the Furious, but I don't think it was cask because it was still cold. Because the cask beers are usually warm or room temperature beers.
Yeah, I think that, it's probably the same process, the same thing. It's just that they refrigerated their
kegs before.
The kegs. Yeah. And actually, now that you mention it, yesterday when I did have the heavy-handed on cask, it was kind of cold. It was cooler than I'm used to having a cask conditioned ale.
I guess it would be kind of weird to have an IPA at room temperature. You usually see like the porters and the stouts at room temperature. So maybe it could be like a drinkability thing.
Could be, I don't know. But like what you're going to notice most of all when you get a cask conditioned ale is that, especially when you're drinking off CO2, the bubbles in it are like biting and a little harsh. When you have it on cask, it's like really smooth and creamy. Like the bubbles are much, much, much smaller, and it actually worked really, really well. We balanced them next to each other. We had one glass of CO2 and one glass of just hand pull, and the floral aromas and flavors of the beer came out much more on the cask hand pull. It was amazing. It was almost like there were 2 separate beers.
I'm not always a fan of the cask beers. I think because they get around room temperature and it's kind of like you want a cold drink. But maybe I had the Teabag Furious in Surly, and that was delicious on the hand pulled station, which I guess is the same thing as cask. So if I ever see a bar that does have cask, I always get it. Well, yeah, you should. I usually go for it too, but I'm not always going to like it, I guess. But I go for it because you're not going to see that.
Yeah, it's really pretty rare, especially because when you're on cask, you're not forcing in the CO2. So there are like air leaks, and oxygen does get into the keg. So the beer doesn't last as long. Like you can only have that on in the keg for a couple days before it'll spoil.
So it's a more truer what they were going for, right? The cask.
Yeah, and it's an old school method of that's how beer used to be pumped. Like back in the day, they would just hand pump it in the old taverns in Europe, and that's how it was. Now we're more technologically advanced.
So was there a lot more head with the hand pulled? Because the Teabag Furious, the head was huge, and I don't know if that was just because they had just set it up. Was it about the same?
It's tough to say because I had a pint of the cask, and I only had like a little flight sampler of the CO2.
They might have dumped it out a little
Tough
bit.
to say.
Okay.
It wasn't like a proper pour in this little 2-ounce tasting glass. But the cask did have like a nice, rich, foamy head that's much creamier.
And the head, I think we've mentioned before, it locks. It's supposed to lock in the flavor.
Yeah, it basically keeps oxygen from getting to the beer. It's like a protective layer, and oxygen is not a good thing for beer.
Yeah. All right, well, the two brothers here, we got a little talkative about the technical doohickeys of beer there. Two Brothers, they also feature all of these great info on the bottle. The IBUs, which this comes in at 65, which is pretty high.
IBU stands for International Bittering Units. It's just a scale to tell how bitter a beer is going to be. Just like as a reference point, like a Weiss beer is probably going to be around like 20 IBUs. Weiss beer being like a German style wheat beer. This is, again, he said 65. You see some of them are over 100 if they're really bitter.
Nikisai that we had on episode 9, that was over 100. Mm-hmm. But that was a double IPA, so
right.
Of course it's going to be a lot higher. And then the alcohol is about at 6.7, or exactly 6.7 apparently. And I think the previous beer was more.
I think it was stronger too. Yeah, I agree with you. And if you notice, I think this might be a first for us. Brad and I are each drinking our own bottle because that's Brad's boys.
I love this beer.
He didn't want to share with me at all. Douchebag, get your own fucking beer.
But Two Brothers, I definitely recommend picking them up. You can get them apparently in 8 states.
I think it was 8, yeah. And they go as far east as New York, I think was on the list of. So our friends out in the Big Apple pick up some.
So probably you got Illinois, Minnesota, Wisconsin.
I think it was Ohio was on there.
Pennsylvania.
Maybe.
New York. What else? Maybe.
Because it was the surrounding states.
Maybe Missouri.
Illinois and then go straight out west.
So maybe Missouri or Kentucky. Maybe. So it's a Midwest, almost
Contact
East
your
Coast thing.
Local representative.
We can trade too.
And it's Windy City Distribution is their handler. I remember that. I was listening.
Well, I like it a lot. I like this more than the previous beer just because.
I like the complexity of the wet hopping. I think that's just a really nice, balanced touch. Especially sometimes with IPAs.
It's too bitter.
People tend to go overboard. They're looking for that super hoppy bitterness. And don't get me wrong, I like that. But when you can add like a little bit more complexity and roundness and still get that bitterness at the same time, like they do with these wet hops, I dig that a lot.
Definitely more drinkability here.
Where are you putting it?
95.
95 on the Brad drinkability scale. On the Hunnemeder, I would rate this for American style India Pale Ale, I'd probably go 87.
So very drinkable. The bitter hits you at the end. Just recapping here, and it's just a solid beer.
Definitely solid. Like a rock.